Andrew Middleton is the co-founder and the chief executive at Gosolr. And if you're in the solar business, in other words, solar power business, your greatest marketing proponent is the South African utility Eskom, which used to be the monopoly, has gone through some very torrid times. And since 2008, South Africa's energy or electricity has been rationed. That's what we call load shedding in this country. People in other parts of the world call it power blackouts. But the private sector is moving in very rapidly, including companies like Gosolr. We'll find out from Andrew the state of play. You know, Andrew, I keep reminding people that we're in the fourth industrial revolution, but many of us forget that the second industrial revolution was the invention of electricity. So we've kind of moved on, and yet in South Africa, we're back at the second industrial revolution, which really has been frustrating for many, many people. When load shedding came in for the first time in 2008, I had a lot of engagement with senior politicians, and I'll never forget Tito Mboweni, at the time was the governor of the Reserve Bank, saying that this was a national shame and that it can't last for months. We must get rid of it. We must get power back on. My goodness, here we sit in 2023, and it's worse than ever. It appears as though the situation has just gone from, despite everyone's best efforts, it's just gone from bad to worse. You're on the ground. Are you seeing that?
Yes, and thanks, Alec. It is quite incredible that it's now sitting almost 15 years on, and we still have this terrible affliction, load shedding. And it really has escalated over the last 18 months, much more than I think anyone ever expected. I do think there is some hope. I think we are going through one of the fastest energy transitions, so there is effectively a privatization of power happening, and it's actually a more greener, sustainable transition, which is more in line with the rest of the world. So even though we find ourselves in a crisis, I do think it will be solved, and I think we will come out the other end with a much better energy mix and a more sustainable solution for South Africans. Yeah.
When did you decide that an opportunity existed in this field?
It was in the middle of 2021. So I'm a trained investment banker, so I spent a lot of time raising capital and helping people invest in growth businesses. I did quite a bit of work in the renewable space, which was more the big solar farms built in the Northern Cape, and then I myself and a couple of like-minded individuals towards the end of 2021 just identified a problem in the residential solar space. There was just really no scale in it. The products were very expensive. They were there for the wealthy households only. It was deemed unreliable. There was a lot of stories of fraud. So we just felt that there was an opportunity to really scale residential solar, one, to help combat load shedding, but more importantly, longer term, is that solar is one of the cheapest and more sustainable sources of energy globally, and households just weren't getting the benefit of that.
We've heard a lot about democratization of different areas, democratization of stockbroking, democratization of, with easy equities, properties, where you can buy into an expensive apartment for R1. This sounds a bit to me like you guys wanted to democratize solar energy and bring it into the ambit of every man.
No, that's right. I think, number one, it was just far too expensive. There was no scale. So there was a lot of different entities in the middle of the supply chain. So it became very expensive. It was very much a wealthy person or wealthy household's product. And it was unreliable. It was very complicated. So we launched what we believe was the first subscription-only solar model. There were a couple of others doing rent-to-own and financing outside of your home loan, but again, we didn't think that solved the affordability problem, and actually holding the solar company to account. So with us, you pay us monthly. So if anything doesn't work, we come back and fix it. It's solar as a service. There are others now that have joined, which is very exciting for the consumer and for the industry. But we started with something that we thought would make it more accessible to the middle class and the middle upper income households, and hopefully we can solve something for the for all the households in South Africa. But at this stage, it's very much a middle income product that we've developed.
Middle income. So where does it start?
So we start at 1,740 Rand per month. And that's so anyone that's using between 1,500 or 2,000 Rand of electricity per month. So that's about 2 million households in South Africa upwards. So there are about 16 million households in South Africa. So we've got products for about 2.2 million. Obviously below there you get a lower income bracket and some without access to basic electricity. And that's another problem to solve on its own. But we'd certainly like to be part of that solution as well.
2 million households. How many of them have you been able, in the short time that you've been alive as Gosolr, to satisfy?
Not enough yet, Alec. We've still got an ambitious target. What I can say is we believe we're the biggest in the market, and we're doing thousands per month. And data I can give you is last month we installed 10 megawatts of solar PV, which is equivalent to a very large commercial installation in 1 month. So look, I think the problem is still much bigger, and we need to solve it. And there's going to be other players. We need some help. But we're getting there. We're getting there day by day.
10 megawatts. And that's in a month.
That's in a month, yeah.
If you escalate that, presumably because you are expanding, where might you end up?
Well, our 3-year plan is to get to 500 megawatts, which is the equivalent of 5 major solar developments that we have been built 100 megawatt above. So that should at least get us to half a stage of load shedding. But that I think is only 5% of that addressable market. So I think that's a conservative target from our side, and there will be others. But I think the industry as a whole should be able to solve it, to solve at least a couple of stages of load shedding. Yeah.
So just Gosolr itself will take away half a stage of national load shedding. That's quite an extraordinary target and ambition. And most people would look at this, here's a young guy with big dreams. But actually, I was surprised to see, not surprised, but interested to see that you're an actuary. You studied actuarial science. Now, in my younger years as a financial journalist, it was only the really smart guys who did actuarial science, and they all went into institutions. Very few of them. Adrian Gore, when he Barry Swartzberg, and Hilton Kellner were 3 of the few actuaries who actually went into entrepreneurship. And yet, I'm seeing more and more of you guys are leaving the institutional world and becoming entrepreneurs like yourself. Is that because you have to, or just because you see greater opportunity?
Well, look. Firstly, on our ambition, yes, we are very ambitious at Gosolr. So I think we've got a long way to go to get to that 500 megawatts, but I believe we can do it. So we're going to push very hard to do it. And yes, I did study actuarial science at UCT. Very good time of my life. I think I realized during university that I wasn't going to be absorbed into the traditional actuarial market, which was pension funds and life companies. I think I'd realized that wasn't necessarily where I found where there'd be interest for me. And I found a home in investment banking, predominantly at Investec and Standard Bank Corporate Finance. And I enjoyed that for 14 years. But I always had a dream to be more entrepreneurial. And I was just looking for the right opportunity and the right partners to do that. I think the actuarial qualification is just a fantastic one, very all-rounded, especially at UCT. So a lot of business courses, a lot of numeracy. So I think you will find more and more actuaries looking for opportunities outside of the traditional pension and life market. I don't think it's necessarily because there's not enough opportunity there. I think it just depends on the character and if they want to be in those types of sub-industries. Yeah.
But it's nice to see very smart people or highly qualified academically people also becoming entrepreneurs. It wasn't the traditional route in the past.
Yeah, and absolutely. I think maybe a few generations before it was you would go for the 30, 40-year golden watch. But I think there's definitely, I think corporates is a different space at the moment. And I was there for a very long time, and unfortunately, big companies aren't growing. That's just a symptom of the South African economy. So we need entrepreneurs. We need new businesses. I think what we're very proud of at Gosolr is we've got, in the last 18 months, we've employed 85 people directly, and we've got another 500 people indirectly in the installers. And that doesn't take into account the secondary impacts of all the supply chain jobs that we support. So I think 600 jobs can be created in 18 months with investment and dedication. And if we can if we can get if we can get entrepreneurs to do it, I don't think big corporates are going to be able to absorb the unemployment gap that we've got. I think it's going to have to come from new businesses and entrepreneurs.
I've dwelled on this for a very good reason, and that is that you've done your numbers. And so clearly the numbers are saying you can go to a household, install solar in the household, and that household pays you 1,750 Rand a month at least. How long would it take for your installation to actually be repaid to you, given that you're taking the capital risk?
So it's about 4 years, Alec. So we would obviously, some of the components will last longer than others. So things like the battery would need to be changed, and that would be changed between 7 and 10 years. So we do build in a replacement of the battery, but the installation and the solar panels should really be there for as long as the customer wants it to be, and as long as there's power used in the house. A lot of people say that have we done our numbers correctly? Are we too cheap? I think what a lot of people are missing is that the cost of the components that we're able to achieve at scale is a lot lower than what an ordinary household would be able to get quoted from their local electrician. And I think that's really what the opportunity we saw was, to try and build scale into the residential solar space, which was very much serviced by your artisanal electrical market, and that was fine, but they were buying from wholesalers and charging a markup.
And you started in Cape Town, then moved to Johannesburg. Where are you installing today?
So we install in the greater Johannesburg area, including Tshwane, and Cape Town includes the Winelands, and we're also in the Garden Route, we're in Bloemfontein, we're in Quebec, we're in Nelspruit, and we're looking to open up new areas.
And how long does it take from the Hogg household saying to Gosolr, we need a solar installation, to actually turning on your power?
So we've managed to get the backlog down quite significantly. In January, February, I think the industry as a whole was struggling with install capacity. So now it can be under a week in Johannesburg and under 2 weeks in Cape Town, and under a week in the other areas. It just depends when we can get all the paperwork done. There's a first month that needs to be paid. But at this stage, we're very much on top of the demand, and we're in a lot stronger space than we were January, February, where the wait time actually went up to close to 2 months.
It's quite extraordinary when you consider companies like yours, and you are the market leader, so there will be others who will follow in your slipstream. But what kind of an impact is this likely to have on load shedding in South Africa, using your actuarial brain now?
Well, firstly, if you've got it right now, I don't think you know what load shedding is. Certainly my family doesn't know what load shedding is until we go away. So certainly customers are very happy. The product works exceptionally well. It's not an off-the-grid system. It's a hybrid system, but it really can take care of the essentials during load shedding and give you some money off your monthly electricity bill. So it's a really great product from that perspective. So the data isn't fantastic around how many of the industry are doing, and some of our competitors do report numbers. We do think we are the biggest, but I think if you aggregate it, then I think the industry can start meaningfully solving load shedding in the next 2 to 3 years. I think we'd need the private sector as a whole to come and step in, and I think what isn't well reported is how many businesses, small, medium, large businesses, are also putting in solar. So that commercial and industrial space is even bigger than residential. So I think together, solar can solve the problem. But I think it's still going to be a problem that we live with for the next couple of years, unfortunately.
Andrew, I go to the budget and the mini budget every year and sit in the lockup and learn about what the minister's going to say before he actually says it. That's one of the privileges of being a financial journalist, and the Department of Finance are really on top of things. I was very excited in the latest budget to see what the finance minister put on the table as far as tax incentives are concerned. Were you?
So from a business perspective, I was, because there was the 125% allowance, which I think is good for solar companies and for businesses. I think the household incentive was a start, but I think it was a bit disappointing from my perspective, Alec. The reason for that, and we have put some comment out about that, was that the rebate was only designed for the solar panel part of it. 60,000 Rand was what you needed to spend to get the full 25% rebate of 15,000 Rand. And 60,000 Rand on solar panels is a lot of solar panels. Most households don't need that. So it's very unlikely that most households will be getting the full benefit of the rebate. And then for the solar panels to work, you need the inverter at a minimum, and most of the time a battery, so that you can make sure that it's stored, the excess power is stored. So it was a good start. I salute the minister for making a start, but I was certainly disappointed, and I think they could have done more given the crisis we're in.
And perhaps they'll adjust it next time around when they know a little more.
I hope so. We have engaged via some of our partners with members of the presidency, and we definitely think we can help. We've got experts in our field in the business, and I think we can certainly add some input to the minister next round, and hopefully we get the incentives right. There needs to be grid reform with all the solar connections, so they need to figure out a way to charge sustainably for the grid, and we've got experts in our business that we think can help revolutionize not just the grid, but private power production, and just take this country forward in a positive manner.
You sound upbeat.
I am. I'm very upbeat. I love South Africa, and I'm proud to continue to invest in and try and see the positives of it. You mentioned Adrian Gore. I like following him. I think he wrote a very good op-ed a few months ago just around being optimistic is not about just blocking your eyes to the problems. It's about trying to see solutions within the problems. And I think I see a lot of opportunities where we've got certain failures in the country that need to be solved. And there's lots of young, energetic people and experienced people that are trying to make a difference. And sometimes we forget about that and get a little bit down around the current situation. But I'm certainly positive, yeah.
Yeah, the drama gets to us from time to time. But just to finish off on how the private sector is reacting to the opportunity now of filling this problem that's being created by a state-run monopoly. Do you have any insights into the imports, for instance, of batteries or solar panels and how they've been going in the most recent times?
Yeah, we do track it, and I mean, it's just record numbers, especially in December. January was very much a watershed moment for the industry and for ourselves. We saw demand surge. I think everyone came back from December expecting there to be a little bit of a respite from load shedding, and there really wasn't. But we've seen record numbers already. I think first quarter imports of inverters, batteries, looking about 300% above what they were year on year. So I think it's there's a big push. We certainly importing a lot. It's a pity that most of it is imported. There are some local manufacturers starting to organize themselves, and we'd like to support some localization as well. The supply chain is very advanced, so I think solar panels for now are certainly predominantly going to be imported, but I think batteries and inverters, there is some progress. So hopefully we can start developing some of the technology ourselves. We've got all the sun in the world, so we really should be one of the leaders in the solar industry. Places like Norway are leaders, and there's no sun there. So it's quite sad that sunny South Africa isn't leaders in solar. We have to import everything, but it is really surging, yeah.
But are the conditions right to become a leader now, given the environment that we're in?
I think if we put our minds to it, certainly on batteries and inverters, we can develop the intellectual property and assemble and build. There are some raw material challenges. We don't unfortunately have any lithium for batteries, but Zimbabwe does, and they're right on our doorstep. So I think there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to produce batteries and inverters, and we've got smart engineering people that can do it. The solar panel market is very well developed out of China, and I think it's going to be very difficult to compete on a global level from that perspective. So that would probably still be something that we import, but you never know.
Well, it's good talking with you, Andrew Middleton, who's the co-founder and chief executive at Gosolr. And I'm Alec Hogg from BizNews.com.